Hello everyone, ex-Walk Hill Bethelite here. And why do Jehovah's Witnesses remain inside of a cult when it seems like every bit of evidence, whether it be online, whether it be the actual broadcast coming from the cult itself, where they are trying to make excuses for false teachings or some rule that they had about beards for over 100 years, now they're changing it. Every bit of evidence is there that Jehovah's Witnesses are a religion led by men. Why do Jehovah's Witnesses then stay? Now, this is an interesting discussion because the answer to that question of why do Jehovah's Witnesses stay varies from person to person. Some people say, well, they're indoctrinated. Some people say, well, they're stupid. Literally, they are mentally incapable of understanding very simplistic things, like literally stupid. Some people may say that they're mentally stuck. They're held captive by a certain thought or a concept. Some believe there are Jehovah's Witnesses that fully are aware that this is led by men and not directly from God himself. But they're comfortable there. They don't want to leave because they're comfortable. I think one of the main reasons why Jehovah's Witnesses stay is that they are stuck in this where else would we go concept. I think that there are Jehovah's Witnesses who have been on the verge of questioning their beliefs. They may have questioned them silently, quietly to themselves. This doesn't make sense to me. However, where Jehovah's Witnesses tend to get stuck, and I think the reason why a person ends up a part of that cult for 30, 40, 50, and sometimes many more years, is they've, at various points in their life, questioned things. But where they continue to get stuck is, where else do I go from here? Jehovah's Witnesses are in an environment where they are extremely partial. Meaning they think that they are in an environment, if they're in the Kingdom Hall, that is better than had they been in a church. That concept is false, but it is a place where they are stuck mentally. A major place where they're stuck mentally. Many people who leave the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses oftentimes still hold on to some of the teachings, some of the concepts, some of the beliefs, certain kinds of partiality. And this can be hard to get rid of. Well, a person who begins this process of questioning their belief, oftentimes they're thinking, well, where else do I go? I can't go to the Catholics because the Catholics have statues. They've got idols. I can't go to the Pentecostal church because the Pentecostal church believes in speaking in tongues, and this is foreign to me. I can't go to a Baptist church because I think that I believe differently from the Baptist church. So I end up just staying where I am, even though I don't fully agree with the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's a concept that doesn't make sense. If you don't fully agree with the teachings in the Baptist church, but you also don't fully agree with the teachings inside the Jehovah's Witness cult, especially the teachings that they keep changing because they were constantly proven wrong. It's not logical to say, well, I then need to stay in the Jehovah's Witness religion that I don't fully agree with to avoid any of these other churches. Name one. There is a church on every corner you can go to. Because you have this, Jehovah's Witnesses have a preconceived idea about churches. It's almost like a prejudice. Could you imagine moving into a neighborhood where the people in that neighborhood, they're prejudiced? Let's say you're African American. You move into a neighborhood where people are prejudiced. One of the main issues is they don't know you. They're operating off of preconceived concepts that may not even be true about you. They don't know you. They just are immediately turned off as soon as they see someone different from them. It's similar, in my opinion, with Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't know for sure what exactly a church teaches. One proof of this is when Jehovah's Witnesses are questioned about the Trinity. Jehovah's Witnesses don't even know what the Trinity teaching is. They just have a preconceived notion that it's false, it's from a church, and churches, what they teach is false. The answer to the question of where do we go as a Jehovah's Witness is that you can take your pick, because the concept that I can't go to any church because every church on the planet is all false, but I can stay inside of a Kingdom Hall even though I know some of what they teach is false. Heck, they even have to change half the stuff that they teach. It's so false and so wrong. Whether men can have beards or not, whether women can wear pants or not, whether there's an overlapping generation, whether the generation of 1914 is when the end is going to come, whether the end is coming next year or whether it's coming 50 years from now. There are plenty of teachings that Jehovah's Witnesses get wrong. Now, we also have to touch on this concept. Not only do Jehovah's Witnesses have this concept that they can deal with false teachings if it's in the Kingdom Hall, but if they don't agree with a teaching and it's at another church, they won't even bother with it. They're also stuck not just in religious prejudice, just automatic turned off to any other religion, automatically, before even learning, well, what exactly do you teach and why? They're also stuck in this concept that Jehovah's Witnesses are morally superior. I can't go anywhere else because if I go somewhere else, morally, they're going to think that, people can just do whatever sexually. Morally, they're going to think that people can Just name it, as far as homosexuality or lesbianism or transgender, you just name it. They've got a certain concept, and they think that any other church is going to have the wrong view of that concept. That's false. Yet another false concept that Jehovah's Witnesses are stuck on. Because Jehovah's Witnesses got to realize Jehovah's Witnesses don't all follow the Bible. There are plenty of Jehovah's Witnesses that will have sex outside of marriage. They may not go right to some elders and turn themselves in. There are plenty of elders, I know of some, who were constantly in some sort of trouble because of sexual flirtation. There's plenty of women who have told me that elders, when they're not inside the Kingdom Hall with their wives, yeah, they try to flirt with them. If they run into them outside of the Kingdom Hall, yeah, they try to flirt with them. They talk to them in ways and put their hands on them and try to hug up on them and do all kinds of things that they don't do in the Kingdom Hall. As soon as they step foot in the Kingdom Hall, it's almost as if the elder doesn't know her. Outside the Kingdom Hall, oh man, they want to talk, but they want to talk with their hands. They want to let the hands do the talking. They want to reach around and grab this and grab that and squeeze them up close. Jehovah's Witnesses do not follow moral scriptural teaching any more than any other church. It is a prejudice. It's a false concept. Jehovah's Witnesses are prejudiced against other religions, assuming they're all immoral. Just assume. They don't know anybody in that church that they just drove past. The 30 churches that they drive past, all on any corner, anywhere, they don't know the people in there. They just assume they must be immoral. That's where Jehovah's Witnesses get stuck. I've worked myself personally on trying to get away from saying that they're just stupid, or Jehovah's Witnesses are just stupid. In certain instances, that can be true, but overall, I think there's a little bit more complexity to it. And people could say that prejudice is stupid. I've heard people say, well, if you're a prejudice in 2024, you're just stupid with all the information available. But there's people who are. They don't really look into it. They don't know people of whatever ethnicity they're prejudiced against. They don't know a lot of them oftentimes. They can't prove any of this stuff. It's just a concept that they have, that they hold on to because, well, they don't know what else to think. I think it's similar with Jehovah's Witnesses. They think that they're moral, even though Bethel has literally come out with a video about the Pillowgate. The Bethelites were having sex with their pillows. And as funny as this is, I was at Bethel. Bethelites were masturbating all over the place. You can't. So here's the thing. At Bethel, every residence doesn't have a bathroom. The residence that I was in at Walk Hill, in the C residence, those were somewhat newer. Some of those had bathrooms. But let's say you're somewhere else, anywhere else in the facility. Bethel facility is pretty large. All these different buildings. You can be nowhere near your room and you need to use the bathroom. Well, you sometimes have to be careful because you could walk in on somebody masturbating on the toilet. We have to just be real here and just quit trying to sugarcoat things. There's bathrooms all over Bethel. There's locker rooms all over Bethel. You can walk into any bathroom. But if you do that, you can walk into somebody slapping to town. I'm talking about slapping meat. Slapping meat, just going to town, right? Then what? Then you end up in the situation that I was in. Coming from Bethel, realizing morally, not only are we not any better than other people, my lands, we're worse. We're worse. Find me another church that had a video at their headquarters about people masturbating and how that's an issue. I'm talking, you have got religious orders where you have monks who are celibate. They haven't had sex at all. So you would assume that you could find somewhere where the Catholic Church is coming up with videos about people, the monks masturbating. I can't find it. But yet and still, you've got Bethelites who are not, they don't have to be celibate technically. Technically, they can get married if they wanted to get married, even if that means they had to leave Bethel. Well, sure, they have pressure, family pressure to stay at Bethel. Because with Jehovah's Witnesses, another thing that's different is they have religious seniority. You don't have a lot of Baptists that feel like they've got seniority, literal seniority, like in a company. With Jehovah's Witnesses, yes, there's a certain amount of seniority that they think is important. So if you've been at Bethel for 4 years, well, they think it's better if you're at Bethel for 10 years. You're just more holier than everybody else if you've been there for 15 years or if you've been there for 20. This is a concept that is false. There's no amount of being at Bethel that's going to just make you holier than everybody else and more important than everybody else because you've been there for 10, 15, 20 years. It's a false concept. So Jehovah's Witnesses get stuck behind all these false concepts. Oh, we're just so moral. Jehovah's Witnesses are this loving brotherhood and yada, yada, yada. A lot of the people saying that haven't been to Bethel. They haven't spent years amongst a group of other Jehovah's Witnesses. And you got your roommate masturbating, thinking that you don't know. You got people hiding bedrolls. There's bedrolls because some of these rooms are so small and they pack so many people in those rooms at Bethel that everybody's not going to have a full-size bed. You wouldn't have room to walk around if everybody had a full-size bed. So people got bedrolls. The bedroll itself is like white. Now, we don't need to get all into details and whatnot, but people get to doing what they're doing, all that beating of the meat, and it becomes evident on the bedroll that that's what's been going on. So and then you also have, I don't know if this is true at Brooklyn, but at Wallkill, Bethel, on every floor, there's a room where you can just discard things. If it's trash or whatever, you can just discard things in this room. You got all these bedrolls and people are trying to hide whose bedroll it is because they've been, the evidence of they just all been masturbating. Jehovah's Witnesses do not have some superpower to control themselves sexually. It's false. It's false. I don't know how many times I've seen elders try to use their position to be alone with women. I don't know how many times. I can't count how many times elders have tried to use the position of elder to have an excuse to be alone somewhere with somebody else's wife or invite somebody else's wife over. This has been going on for probably as long as there's been elders. They've been trying to find ways of using that position to benefit themselves. One of the ways that they use that position to benefit themselves is flirting with other women or trying to control other people's families, trying to control who other people date, trying to undermine other men by trying to, speak to their wives as if, hey, I'm this holy elder and your husband is not doing this right and not doing that right. And I feel like I need to speak directly to you as his wife instead of going to him and telling him about all the stuff he did wrong. There's a million ways that men who are Jehovah's Witnesses find a way to try to get over some woman. There were elders, I remember, who they would not. There's one in specific who would not. He had some call with some woman, that he had to always go to by himself. Like literally, I'm in the car group with him. It's just me and him. He parks the car and says, hey, I got to run in here real quick. I got this call. And just stay put. I'll be right back. He goes in there. He's in there for a minute. There's a married man. He's in there for a minute. And I'm just sitting in the car. Let me go. This is while I'm at Bethel. Let me open up my magazine and see if I can get some studying in to try to, make use of my time while I'm sitting here waiting for this dude. I was darn near ready to get out the car, go knock on the door, see if he's okay. But who knows what I would have walked into if I did. When he finally gets back, he just gets to talking. Through conversation, I don't know if he did it intentionally, but he revealed that this is a woman that he was spending all that time with. You're supposed to turn this over to a sister. You're not supposed to just have women that you are going to go visit and need to go visit by yourself. And because you're an elder, people will listen to you when you tell them, stay in the car. I'm going to go talk to this woman and go spend 30 minutes in this house with her. You know what I mean? Or it could have been longer. Jehovah's Witnesses use the authority of elder to just make stuff up. Make up rules. It ain't in the Bible, but they will make up rules when it comes to finding a zillion ways to try to have sex with women, basically. Whether it's somebody else's wife, they're trying to find a way. There was a group of elders that this woman, they didn't want this woman to essentially have dealings with other men in the congregation. She was leaving her husband. So they disfellowshipped her for the sole purpose of using that authority to keep other men away from her. As in, hey, if you're not going to be with this guy, you're not going to be with anybody. And from my understanding, it was a scriptural divorce. Like the guy had slept with some other woman and he got disfellowshipped. So this woman, being a believing Jehovah's Witness, kept coming to meetings, even though they DF'd her for the sole purpose, and she wouldn't have had a problem. Even though she was DF'd, I could see half the ministerial service in the congregation staring at her as she comes in and out of the Kingdom Hall. She wouldn't have had a problem finding somebody else. And I think that's the whole reason why they found a way to DF her, to keep all that in check while their buddy, who they had to DF because she revealed that he was sleeping around, they wanted them both DF, essentially, to try to help him out, to keep her in check until he can get reinstated and then reinstate her. There's a million things that point to the simple fact that Jehovah's Witnesses are not any more moral than anyone else. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, even believing Jehovah's Witnesses, they're fully aware. Teaching-wise, the actual teaching, they're no more accurate than anybody else. They know. It is common knowledge now amongst Jehovah's Witnesses that Watchtower gets stuff wrong. Jehovah's Witnesses get stuff wrong. The governing body is getting stuff wrong. And then they have to have a whole thing where they're changing it. So as far as why are Jehovah's Witnesses stuck in a religion they full well know has had false teachings, it's a mix of religious prejudice against other religions and this concept that we are pure. And that concept of we are pure sometimes comes from they've never really spent time at Bethel. They don't know what goes on there. They just assume everybody's holy at Bethel. And the longer you're at Bethel, the more seniority you get. And the more seniority you get, the more holier and just unbelievably Christian you are. It's false. It is false. Likely, the longer you're at Bethel, the more time you spend there, the more likely you are to have been corrupted. So, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Essentially, in summary, there are Jehovah's Witnesses that may not have the mental ability to understand. And then there's Jehovah's Witnesses that full well understand, yeah, we have teachings that are false. Yeah, they're infallible. They can get stuff wrong. But I'm here because, why? Prejudice against other religions and other faiths. They could go to any church. They just assume that they're wrong. And why would this be an issue when you know Jehovah's Witnesses have been wrong and could be wrong now? I don't know. But if a Jehovah's Witness, and here's the thing, if a Jehovah's Witness feels that this church over here is wrong and that you're right, you could easily just go in the church, request to speak to the pastor or request to speak to the Sunday school teacher or deacon and just explain to them. Here's the truth from the Bible. This is what you guys should teach. They're not going to throw rocks at you. They're not going to shoot you. They're not going to chase you out the church. Churches are a whole lot more tolerant than the Jehovah's Witness organization. If the Jehovah's Witness organization is wrong and you point something out, oh yeah, you're probably getting disfellowship. They're going to snatch your family from you. You got elders trying to contact people's wives as we speak to try to tell them, well, your husband doesn't go to the hall anymore, so, now I need to start calling you and talking to you and all kinds of stuff like that. Well, essentially, if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you feel like you can't go to that church over there, wherever church, because you think that they're wrong and you're right, or you think that there's some morally things that are wrong and that you're right, just go over there and tell them. Wouldn't that be making a witness? Feel free to go to any church and ask them, why do you teach what you teach? Hear from the Bible is what I've learned. If you're right, then there's no reason to be afraid. Most likely what would happen is you would really learn that there are teachings that you were raised to believe as a Jehovah's Witness or that were wrong. You are taught as a Jehovah's Witness that there's teachings that are wrong that aren't wrong. Is what would happen. So the question as to where can we go to any church. I challenge you. This is my challenge to any Jehovah's Witness. Go to any church, but don't just walk up to random people. If you go to a Baptist church, ask to speak to the pastor, ask to speak to the assistant pastor, ask to speak to the Sunday school director. If you're going to a Catholic church, ask to speak to a priest, or ask to speak to the, they have something called RICA, I believe, where they're teaching people. Ask to speak to the RICA director or someone who's in charge of teaching. Any church, go to any church and speak to the people who are in position as teachers. And if you've got these Bible truths that are all correct, show them. See if they change the teachings of the church. Then you could go to any church. Because all you'd have to do is share the truth with them, and then they just change their teaching. Why would they continue to teach something that was false? That's a challenge. What will happen is you'll find out more of the teachings from Jehovah's Witnesses were false than what you had originally anticipated. And more of the teachings from that church were correct. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. But take on that challenge and then comment down below your experience. What you learned about these different churches that you found out what you were raised to believe as a Jehovah's Witness is false about some of these churches. Some of it's just prejudice. It was false to begin with. X-Wall Kill Bethelite signing out.